Now let's go to our first conversation this afternoon, which relates to what is actually happening in the Middle East. Foremost, the global supply chain is experiencing a moment of immense distress as multiple factors work to disrupt it on both a short and long, medium-term perspective. Most immediately, tariffs have disrupted the accuracy of demand forecasting and inventory planning within the global supply chain. Fortunately, its technological sophistication has greatly evolved over the last few decades as the supply global chain now sees companies increasingly leveraging data and information to better forecast demand and plan inventory. Due to this increased uncertainty, companies also are reducing their purchasing activities. Consequently, transport rates are decreasing and some logistics firms are facing challenges in maintaining operations amid fluctuating cost and disrupted supply lines. But the good news is that the global supply chain is still arguably one of the most resilient stages in memory. The pandemic and the geopolitical tension since 2022 have reshaped it, driving companies to become more flexible and innovative in their approach. Dr. Olushola Kolawole is a lecturer in logistics and supply chain management, University of Bradford, United Kingdom. He is my guest. He joins me for this conversation. Good afternoon, Dr. Olushola.
Hi, good afternoon, Tolope. Thank you for having me this afternoon.
Yeah, but before we get to start our conversation, let's tell our viewers that President Bola Tinubu has arrived Kaduna now for his official visit and, of course, to inaugurate some projects in the state. But we will continue with Business Nigeria on all other platforms, as always.
Nigeria and outside Nigeria is the highest certification by NBTE, which we have collaborated with them when we started this project, and today, alhamdulillah, we're here to commission this project.
All right, then, Dr. Olushola, let's start with Trump's tariff and what we've seen in recent times. We've seen how that has affected logistics supply chain and all. Take us through what that means to you and what you're learning around that.
Yeah, thank you again, Tolulope. This is a very interesting period across the world. And I just want to give a kind of overview of what we meant when we talked about global supply chain. So when we're talking about global supply chain, is an interconnected activities that brings together the manufacturer, the suppliers, the logistics providers, and consumers across the world. That is, we have the African trading with the America, we have the European Union trading with the American as well. So this is a global supply chain where we have a good from a particular region where they don't have, we supply each other. And that is what is, when we are talking about global supply chain, that is what we understand to be global supply chain. But however, over the past few years, we've seen a system that has been shaken seriously, and due to different policies from the government officials, including the President of the United States of America, who recently came up with what is termed to be Trump trade war. We have that. We also have the different conflict that is going on across the world. Ukraine and Russia war is one of them. The Middle East, the recent explanation that is actually going on in Middle East is one of them as well. So all these as giving a global supply chain a very big challenges, and that is affecting the global supply chain. It's affecting the way we trade with each other. So there's a kind of destruction that is going on across the world. And if care is not taken, it might really, really escalate, and it might really, really affect the supply of goods from one country to another. So that is just an overview of what global supply chain is all about. And coming back to the Trump tariff. We understand that recently President Trump came and said he's giving everybody tariff. We have what is called baseline, 10% of tariffs increase for specific country. And why he increased 20% to some other country, and why we have what is called tit for tat for China, example, was given a very tough time for with each other. So that is what is going on, and this has really affected the global supply chain. You did mention what is going on in terms of increasing the cost of goods across the world. What we are now buying for 10 pounds is we're now buying them for 20 pounds. It is because of some of these activities that is going on, some of these imbalances. Nevertheless, President Trump did mention that America first, and that he wants everybody across the world to patronize the goods, the products that are actually coming through America, but is actually affecting the relationship with other countries. And this might continue if nothing is being done. So that's just an overview, and that is some of the implication of the tariff.
Well, let's stay more with the tariff and impact again across the globe. You know what, into my introduction, there is this fear that there might be a decrease in demand if things go so much on the high side. If that happens, what impact would that have on the global supply chain?
Yeah, thank you so very much. That's going to be a very big impact on the global supply chain. It is those who have the means, the purchasing power. When we are talking about the purchasing power, we are talking about the ability to be able to buy goods and services. If the consumer are unable to buy the goods and services, it's going to have impact on the producer. The producer might not be able to produce the goods, or even though if they produce the goods, it could lead to what is called overstocking of product or over inventory. So they are going to have more inventory because goods are not being bought by the consumer. So this is one of the implications of the trade war that is ongoing now between the United States. We know that United States is the giant of the world. So a lot of goods are being sold in the United States, and some of the goods are also being brought from the United States to other countries. And if there is a kind of war between the United States and other countries, it's going to have impact on the product, and which is going to lead to more of inventory. And having more inventory in place means that the company has to service the inventory, and it might even lead to waste. So we have issue with waste as well, as the product might expire because the consumer are not purchasing those products. So it's an implication of the trade war between the United States and the country of the world. And that is one of the implications. And another implication of it is that there might not be money in the circulation because the trade is being affected. Exchange of money is having an issue, and money in the circulation may be affected, and the goods and service also will be affected. Another implication is that goods and services might be more expensive, and because of that, a consumer might not be able to buy some of these goods that has been of increase because of the tariff that we're talking about. So these are some of the implications of the tariff on the global supply chain, meaning that goods and services might be overproduction. We may have what is called the overproduction of goods, more of inventory, and consumer might not be able to buy some of them, as they might not be able to afford the cost of buying some of these products, which I think is very important. And it would be nice for organization, and that's why a lot of companies are thinking about what to do to reduce the impact of this global tariff.
Now, already some companies are significantly reevaluating their processes and making significant changes to supply chain strategies. Is that the way to go, considering this challenge that we see ahead of us?
Yes, I think so. We now have the countries and companies are considering what is called nearshoring. Nearshoring is that sourcing for products that are very close to the country of production. So they are looking at, rather than going to the United States, for example, to go and produce goods and services, you might want to consider a very close by country. That's one of the strategy companies are using now to see if they can reduce the impact of or over dependency on America. Now, we have the nearshoring. We have what is called reassuring as well. The reassuring is also looking at the regional, within the European Union. They might decide to be looking at what they can do within each other rather than depending on African, for example, depending on America, depending on Mexico. What can we do within our region? Can we source for goods and services within our region so that it's going to reduce the impact of the tariff on us? So a lot of companies are also looking at that. And they're also looking at inventory holding. So companies began to over-ordering now. So when the prices are very cheap, they want to make sure that they quickly tap into it and over-order. And they can keep some of those products should in case if the price escalated, then they've got something to use. So they're also looking at that. And it has led to a lot of uncertainty. They are not sure what the markets look like. They don't know what to do. But a lot of organizations, companies are developing strategy. So like the one I've mentioned, the nearshoring, the regional sharing, they are looking at the options that they can use to ensure that the impact of the tariff is not actually felt on their activities.
Okay. Now, we've talked about the changes that we see and all of that, but arguably, if you still look at it, it still looks like the sector still remains very resilient and still very, very quick for you to agree, despite all that the sector has been through. This started since the pandemic, and the sector has been going through this back and forth and all of that. If you're to look ahead, what do you make of it?
Yeah, thank you again, Tolulope. Well, if I have to look ahead, I think organizations are now putting more effort into what is called diversification. Diversifying their products, diversifying their services. A lot of them are also building alliances with other countries. And I think this will definitely continue. A lot of them now have diversification in terms of suppliers, having suppliers from different regions of the world, different area of the world. So diversification is one of the things that I think is going to be prominent as we move on in our global supply chain. Organization will look at sourcing of their products from different aspects. And again, there's going to be what is called regional tie. That is, different region might be looking at their own region rather than looking outside their region. And that is one of the things that is actually going on. They want to encourage supply chain partners from their aligned political allies. For example, India, Mexico, they might want to come together, to defeat the tariff that has been imposed by the United States. And again, one of the things that is very important, which I think we are working towards, is what is called digital supply chain feasibility. Where we can have real tracking of our product with the help of the AI. So AI can help organizations to reduce some of this impact. So organizations are moving towards digitalizing their supply chain. And blockchain technology is also of help, which I think is is a strategy that companies will build more on as we move on, looking at the future as well. And we have what is called just in case, where organization might want to stockpiling their raw materials. So where they want to buy more to ensure that if anything, I've mentioned that before, if anything happens, they have something, we call it buffer inventory. They have something that can be of help to them, that can sustain within the period. So these are some of the things. We have the stockpiling. We want to manage our inventory to ensure that we're able, to supply what our consumer or our customer we need as we move on in our course to ensure that our supply chain has a kind of resiliency.
I'm looking at what purchasing power is looking like. You know what we're also facing in Nigeria here, considering economic reforms that are on and that the impact. But if this trade war continues to escalate and, this tariff thing is on and the Middle East thing continues to escalate, and if the barrier of trade becomes so high, that supply chain cannot economically overcome them, what do you think would be next? Again.
Yes, like I've mentioned,
yes.
It's going to have both negative impact and positive impact. The negative impact is that organization might be thinking about closing down.
That's a good one. People will lose jobs.
That is really going on in the Middle East. That's really going on. That is, our hairline is being affected in the Middle East, for example. And the impact of that is that a lot of people are going to lose their job. And which is going to affect the purchasing power. It's only those who have job, who have a means of surviving, that can afford to buy something. If they can't afford to buy it, to buy a product or a good, then there's nothing they can do because there is no purchasing power they've got. So we are going to lose a lot of jobs as a result of closing down some of these companies in the Middle East. Even a lot of organizations are also being affected by the tariff as well. And many of them are considering closing down their organization. So that is one of the effects. We can see what is going on in the Middle East. Recently, this morning, I think it was this morning, that there was a kind of trade war between Iran and Israel over the shipping line. And they say, you are the one affecting the shipping lane. And if shipping lane is being affected, what is the impact of that? We might not be able to have some products that are coming from the Middle East, for example, to other countries. And that alone will affect. And it's also going to affect the delivery period. A lot of shipping that are meant to deliver within 5 days are now delivering their products within 10 days. The lead time is now of increase just because of the war that is going on. They couldn't deliver on time because they have to be careful because of security. So there is insecurity in the Middle East, and it's also affecting organizations who are based there. It's not only the organizations that are based there, even organizations that are depending on some of these organizations that are based in the Middle East are being affected, because of the lead time, which I've mentioned before. People have been, the conflict has really, really reshaping the trade, the global supply chain. And that is why organizations are thinking about what we can do. How can we diversify our service, our product? What next can we do? And if this continues, like I've mentioned, it's going to have a negative impact. And the other thing, the positive impact is that a lot of organizations might tap into this, especially a country like Africa, where we have relatively peace. We have peace there. So we might be thinking of what can we do? How can we salvage this opportunity that has been given to us by the trade war and the conflict? What can we create and supply to other countries? How can we also be a producer rather than the one service economy? How can we be a producing economy? So that is one of the things that we need to be thinking about in our dear country. What else can we do rather than organization closing down in Africa? We should be generating more organization that will be able to serve other countries. America, for example, the Middle East, for example, they need a lot of food, and we can produce those things. We can have a lot of food organization, food company that will be producing some of this product for the Middle East, for example, for the European Union, for example, and we might have a very good deal with them. So I think that is an opportunity for us in Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, everywhere within African country to use this opportunity to develop our economy and become a producing economy.
Finally, just on a lighter note, I'm thinking that Trump gets UK trade deal as EU6 similar offer. You know, I think Trump and the Prime Minister of UK got an agreement at the start of the G7 meeting.
Yeah.
Are you thinking that would have in any way also addressed these challenges that we've seen before now?
Well, for those of us who are here in England,
yes,
we believe the deal between the United Kingdom and the USA is not a good deal. Because it's going to really, really affect our farmer, for example. I've listened to a lot of people say, oh, this is going to have a negative impact on the farming activities in the United Kingdom. And I don't believe it's a good deal. This deal has been there for more than 20 years, but nothing has been done. So suddenly Trump came, the Prime Minister came, and they decided that to go on with this. But it's going to have a negative impact. I don't see it having a positive impact on the trade tariff at all. It's going to have a negative impact because the farmer are agitating here. You know, there was a time I read in the news that the farmer staged a protest in the United Kingdom here because they know that their product, they might not be able to sell their product as they would have because we're now depending on the USA to bring some of the goods that we can actually produce in the UK from the USA, you know, and is an agreement that I believe that the Prime Minister we want to, focus on and work with all his might. But to me, it's not really a good deal because it's going to have impact on the local market.
Dr. Olushola Kolawole, lecturer, logistics and supply chain management, University of Bradford, United Kingdom. Thank you so much. As always, it's always interesting having you join us to discuss these issues.
Thank you, Tolope.
Enjoy the rest of your day.